You surround yourself with people, yet you feel powerless. Their noise dulls your instincts. Their approval becomes your leash. But there is a truth they never told you: power does not grow in crowds. It is forged in isolation, in the silence where you face yourself without distraction, without illusion. This video will show you why the absence of others is not loneliness. It is strategy. There comes a moment when a man realizes that every voice around him seeks to shape his will. Friends, mentors, lovers, all play their quiet games of influence, wrapping their interests in the language of care. It was then that I withdrew. Not out of despair, but out of calculation. Solitude became my council chamber, the silence my most honest advisor. In that darkness, I studied how easily men are led, and how rarely they lead themselves. From isolation, I did not lose connection. I gained control. I learned that power begins when the world no longer dictates the rhythm of your thoughts. Power does not vanish when you withdraw. It crystallizes. Most men believe isolation weakens them. They equate solitude with defeat, as if stepping back means surrender. But tell me, when the lion retreats into the tall grass, has it surrendered, or has it begun to hunt? To withdraw is to observe without being observed. It is the moment when motion ceases, yet strategy begins. History remembers the rulers who mastered this art. When Caesar crossed the Rubicon, he did not act from impulse. Before that decisive march, he spent months in quiet, studying the Senate's divisions, calculating loyalties, and listening to the silence between words. That was not indecision. It was isolation as preparation. You see, noise is the enemy of foresight. The world is loud, and every voice that reaches you carries an agenda. Small or grand, it does not matter. Each conversation tugs at your thinking, reshaping your will in imperceptible increments. The crowd does not need to destroy you. It only needs to keep you busy. Have you noticed how easily the mind loses its edge in company? Surrounded by others, you become reactive, adjusting, responding, pleasing. The social world pulls you into its current. You begin to act not from intention, but from expectation. Isolation interrupts that current. It returns you to your original rhythm, your private tempo of thought. There, in silence, you begin to hear something rarer: your own reasoning, unpolluted by persuasion. But make no mistake, isolation is not escape. It is not an emotional withdrawal from the world, but a calculated retreat from influence. To isolate yourself is to step out of the marketplace of opinions where every man sells his convictions as truth. Consider the strategist. He does not stand in the crowd to understand the crowd. He watches from above. Distance is perspective, and perspective is power. When you are among others too long, your instincts begin to dull. You become predictable, your patterns readable. The skilled manipulator thrives on that. He studies your reactions, learns what flatters you, what provokes you, what silences you. He does not need to overpower you, only to anticipate you. Isolation, therefore, is armor. It denies others the access they need to control you. In silence, you deprive them of information, and information is the lifeblood of manipulation. The modern world fears this kind of withdrawal. It calls it antisocial, unproductive, even dangerous. Society depends on constant interaction, because interaction breeds conformity. But remember this: every empire was built by a man who spent a season in exile, forced or chosen. When Machiavelli himself was banished from Florence, he lost everything: status, wealth, influence. Yet in his solitude, stripped of all distraction, he wrote The Prince. From isolation came the most enduring manual on power ever conceived. That is the paradox. What the world calls your downfall may, in truth, be your beginning. Ask yourself, when was the last time you sat in a room without reaching for your phone, without checking who approves of you? You call it connection, but it is dependence dressed as relevance. The more connected you are, the more accessible your mind becomes to those who wish to steer it. The strategist knows when to vanish. He withdraws not out of fear, but to sharpen his perception, to observe others still entangled in the noise. From that vantage, their movements reveal patterns. Their words expose motives. Solitude becomes your laboratory, You test your thoughts without interruption. You refine your judgment. You learn to see without reacting. This is what isolation truly offers. The power to pause, to calculate, to anticipate. And when you return different. Not as a hermit, but as a tactician. You have seen what they cannot see, because they never stopped moving long enough to notice. You will speak less, but each word will carry weight. You will act slower, but each move will strike deeper. Those who once influenced you will now sense a shift, an invisible barrier between your mind and theirs. They will call it distance, they will call it arrogance, but you will know it for what it is: control. Power is not always visible. Often, it exists in the restraint to do nothing until the right moment demands everything. That restraint is born in solitude. So withdraw. Watch. Let them exhaust themselves in noise and haste. The one who steps back today will command tomorrow. Because power does not shout. It waits, in silence, in shadow, in isolation. And when it finally moves, the world will not see preparation, only dominance. Every man believes he is free until he realizes how deeply he craves approval. You may think you make your own choices, but tell me, how many of them exist to be seen? You speak, act, dress, and even think for an invisible audience that sits inside your mind, judging your every move. That audience is not real, and yet it governs you. This is the quiet truth of control. The one who defines your need for validation owns your behavior. Look around. Entire empires are built on this weakness. Social media feeds on it, rewarding you with brief flashes of pleasure, tiny affirmations that you exist, that you matter. The crowd applauds, and you perform again. The more you seek approval, the more predictable you become, and predictability is death to power. Power demands mystery. Dependence demands exposure. When you need others to affirm your worth, you hand them the strings to your identity. They can lift you with praise or destroy you with silence, and most tragically, they rarely even notice the control they hold. Consider how rulers once tamed their subjects. They did not always use chains. They used spectacle, parades, rituals, symbols of greatness that made men feel included in the ruler's glory. In return, the people gave loyalty, not from fear, but from validation. They felt seen. Validation is the most elegant form of enslavement, invisible, voluntary, and addictive. You may think this belongs to history, but it surrounds you still. Your workplace, your relationships, even your ideas, all are shaped by this subtle hunger for recognition. A compliment becomes your drug. A criticism becomes your wound. You are no longer guided by principle, but by reaction. Ask yourself, if the world turned its back on you tomorrow, would your conviction survive? Would you still act with the same force, or would you wither without applause? To kill the need for validation is to kill the invisible tyrant that lives inside you. It is not a rejection of others. It is the reclamation of self-command. When a ruler acts from necessity, not approval, his power becomes absolute. He no longer bends to opinion, he shapes it. The same applies to you. When you no longer need others to recognize your worth, you become dangerous, not to them, but to the systems that feed on your compliance. Think of a chessboard. The pawns move first, eager, exposed, always forward. They seek progress that others will notice. But the king moves rarely, slowly, intentionally. His silence commands more than their haste. You must learn to act as the king, indifferent to validation, focused only on position. Most people fear this detachment. They think indifference makes them unlovable. But in truth, it makes them unmanipulable. The one who cannot be flattered cannot be controlled. The one who does not chase praise becomes the source of it. Watch closely how manipulators operate. They never begin with threats. They begin with admiration. They mirror your desires, exaggerate your strengths, feed your ego until you depend on their praise. And when they withdraw it, you crumble, eager to earn it back. You mistake obedience for connection. To escape this cycle, you must train yourself to endure silence, to act without applause, to choose paths that may be misunderstood, even ridiculed, and yet remain firm. That is where strength is born, in the quiet act of self-approval. History's most feared figures were not those who ruled armies, but those who no longer needed to be liked. Their power frightened others because it could not be negotiated through flattery or shame. They were beyond reach. When you no longer depend on validation, something extraordinary happens. Your perception sharpens. You begin to see how others crave approval, how their decisions are shaped by fear of rejection. You see the invisible cages that keep men obedient. And once you see them, you can move through the world untouched by them. This is not arrogance. It is liberation. It is the calm of one who answers only to reason and necessity. The calm of one who has mastered his own worth. But make no mistake, killing the need for validation is not a single act. It is a death performed in silence, again and again. Each time you resist the urge to be seen. Each time you act without witness, you sharpen your independence. Each time you reject flattery, you reclaim your sovereignty. So learn to walk alone in a world addicted to applause. Be feared not for your cruelty, but for your composure. Be admired not for your charm, but for your indifference. And when they ask you why their words no longer move you, simply smile. Because what they don't yet know is that the moment you stop needing their validation, you begin to control theirs. You learn more by watching than by winning. The crowd is intoxicated by action. Everyone wants to speak, to be seen, to be involved. But the wise man stands still while the world performs around him. He observes. He listens. He learns the patterns that others reveal through their need to act. Observation is not passivity. It is silent dominance. To see without being seen. That is the first form of power. Think of a battlefield. The impulsive general charges at the first opportunity, eager to prove courage. The strategist waits. He studies the dust, the rhythm of the enemy's march, the hesitation before their strike. He learns not from victory, but from delay. Then, when the moment comes, his single movement collapses the chaos of others. Most people are blind because they are too busy performing. They rush to participate in every conversation, every conflict, every trend. They think presence equals influence. But in truth, it reveals them. The more you act, the more you expose. Your tone betrays your emotions. Your reactions reveal your weaknesses. Your eagerness to respond gives away your strategy before you even have one. But when you step back, when you observe without reacting, something strange happens. People begin to expose themselves to fill the silence you leave. They talk more. They justify. They overshare. And while they believe they're winning your attention, you're quietly dissecting their psychology. Observation grants you leverage. You begin to see not just what people do, but why they do it. Their fears, their ambitions, their blind spots. All become visible to the one who does not compete for the spotlight. Consider the courts of Renaissance Italy, filled with nobles, scholars, and schemers, each desperate to impress. Those who spoke the loudest were rarely the ones who survived. It was the quiet observer, the secretary, the advisor in the corner, who saw how alliances formed, how betrayals brewed behind laughter. Knowledge was never gained through noise, it was stolen from silence. Ask yourself, how often do you truly observe? When someone speaks, do you listen to their words, or to what those words attempt to conceal? When a friend praises you, do you question what they might want next? Observation is not cynicism. It is protection. To master observation, you must first kill the urge to react. This is harder than it sounds. The ego wants to respond, to defend, to prove itself. But every reaction is a confession. When you reply too quickly, you reveal that their words have power over you. So you must train the discipline of pause. In that pause, you see what they expected you to do. And you can choose the opposite. That is strategy. That is freedom. There's a psychological law hidden in human nature. The observer always controls the observed. The moment someone realizes you are watching calmly while they lose composure, they grow uneasy. Their confidence begins to fracture, because your silence forces them to confront themselves. In every social setting, this principle holds. The one who speaks less always appears wiser. The one who listens appears stronger. People project intelligence onto stillness because they cannot read it. And what cannot be read cannot be manipulated. This is why rulers built walls, not just around their cities, but around their expressions. A ruler who reveals emotion invites rebellion. A ruler who watches in silence breeds uncertainty, and uncertainty breeds obedience. Observation also refines your instincts. You begin to detect patterns long before others do. The colleague who flatters just before betrayal. The friend who mirrors your tone to gain trust. The stranger whose eyes linger half a second too long, revealing envy behind their smile. These are details that escape those who live only to participate. Observation transforms life into a chessboard. Every gesture becomes a move, every silence a calculation. You stop reacting to appearances and begin deciphering motives. It is the difference between playing the game and seeing the game. But there is a danger. Once you learn to observe deeply, detachment follows. You stop seeing people as companions and begin to see them as studies. Their words become data, their emotions signals. This detachment can make you powerful, but also isolated, and that is the price of clarity. Still, ask yourself, what is worse? To live blind among the crowd, constantly manipulated by appearances, or to stand apart, cold but clear, seeing every motive as if under glass? You must choose. The observer sacrifices comfort for control. The participant trades awareness for belonging. One leads armies, the other feeds them. Remember this? The one who can see the board does not need to move first. He only needs to move last. So stay still, watch longer, speak less. Let others reveal their hands while you keep yours unseen. Because in this world, the eyes that do not blink are the ones that rule. Every kingdom falls when its walls are weak. The same is true for the mind. You cannot control the world, but you can fortify yourself against it. The mistake most people make is this: they seek safety in others instead of strength within. They build their walls out of approval, comfort, and dependence. And when those walls crumble, so do they. A fortress of the self is not built in peace. It is built in siege. You learn discipline when pleasure tempts you. You learn patience when the world ignores you. You learn detachment when betrayal strikes. These moments, painful as they seem, are the bricks of your inner defense. Ask yourself, what defends you when everything collapses? Your wealth? Your friends? Your reputation? All of these can be taken. But the mind that governs itself cannot be conquered. History remembers those who mastered this art. When Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire consumed by plague and corruption, he could not control the chaos outside his palace. But inside his own thoughts, he reigned absolute. He wrote not for applause, but for endurance. His strength was not in his armies, but in his command of his own emotions. You must become the same, a ruler behind your own walls. To rebuild yourself as a fortress, you must first destroy what weakens you. That means confronting dependency. Every time you rely on another for validation, peace, or direction, you open a gate in your defense, and believe this: someone will eventually walk through it. The first wall of power is discipline. Without it, the mind becomes a city open to invasion, every impulse a soldier that betrays you. Discipline is not cruelty. It is architecture. It gives shape to chaos and converts weakness into command. The disciplined man may still feel fear or desire, but he does not kneel to them. The second wall is patience. Impatience is the noise of weakness, the need to act, to fix, to escape. Patience, on the other hand, is the silence of mastery. It allows you to wait for the perfect moment while others destroy themselves in haste. The The third wall is detachment. Detachment is misunderstood. It is not apathy. It is control over what deserves your energy. The world will try to pull you into every battle. Emotional, political, personal. Most of these are distractions designed to exhaust you. Detachment allows you to choose your wars with precision. Imagine yourself as a fortress surrounded by storms. Winds howl, enemies shout, alliances shift. But within your walls, you do not flinch. You study the noise from above, not with arrogance, but with composure. That is true power, to remain unmoved while others panic. In the modern world, emotional exposure is celebrated as authenticity. But to reveal too much of yourself is to hand others the map to your weaknesses. Your fortress must be built on selective openness. Show what strengthens your image, conceal what endangers your control. Even kindness, when measured, becomes a weapon. Psychologically, people are drawn to those who cannot be easily read. Mystery commands respect. Predictability invites manipulation. So ask yourself, are you a fortress or a marketplace where anyone can walk in and influence your state of mind? The process of rebuilding yourself is slow. You will be tempted to open your gates again, to seek comfort in the familiar noise of dependence. But every time you resist, every time you endure in silence, you lay another stone in your foundation. In time, others will feel your strength before you speak it. They will sense the solidity of your presence, the quiet authority of one who governs himself. Remember, even the strongest fortress requires maintenance. Neglect it, and cracks appear. Complacency is the slowest form of decay. It whispers that you are safe when you are not. So you must test your defenses constantly. Withdraw, reflect, strengthen. Isolation becomes your blacksmith's fire. Solitude the hammer that tempers your steel. And yet, a fortress is not built to hide forever. It is built so that when you step beyond its walls, you do so from strength, not from fear. The world cannot shake what is fortified from within. Ask yourself, when pressure comes, do you collapse or calculate? Do you scream for help, or do you adjust your strategy in silence? That answer reveals whether you are still made of flesh or of stone. The world respects the impenetrable. The one who stands untouched by praise or attack is mistaken for divine, because most cannot comprehend such stability. So rebuild yourself, not to escape the world, but to rule your place within it. Let no betrayal pierce you, no flattery sway you, no storm uproot you. Because when your mind becomes a fortress, you no longer need walls. You cannot rule the world while lost within it. That is why the wise withdraw, not to vanish, but to recalibrate. Isolation is not exile, it is incubation. And when you return, you must not come back as the same person who left. You return as the architect, the one who designs, not obeys, the structure of influence. When a man re-enters society after mastering solitude, his presence disturbs the balance. He no longer moves with the crowd. He directs it. He does not seek approval. He shapes it. The air around him changes because his silence has turned into strategy. But let us be clear. The goal of isolation was never peace. It was clarity, the kind that allows you to read others as easily as they once read you. When you re-emerge, your eyes are no longer distracted by emotion. You see every interaction as an exchange of leverage. Every compliment, a test, every alliance, a transaction. Every friendship, a negotiation of power. The crowd acts from impulse. You act from intent. That difference alone grants you dominion. History's greatest tacticians understood this rhythm. Withdrawal, study, return. Consider Napoleon. Before he became emperor, he spent his youth in isolation. A foreigner, despised by aristocrats, mocked for his accent. He learned early that belonging was overrated. He spent his solitude studying warfare, politics, psychology. And when he finally returned to the world, he did not fit into it. He bent it around him. You must do the same. When you have built your inner fortress, your next move is not to hide within it forever, but to use it as a base from which to influence. A ruler behind walls is safe but forgotten. A ruler who steps out with control becomes untouchable. But influence is not about volume. It is about precision. You don't need to control everyone. Only the few who control everyone else. Every hierarchy has pressure points, key individuals whose opinions ripple outward. Learn to identify them. Earn their trust, not with honesty, but with utility. People do not follow what is true, they follow what serves them. This is the architect's secret. You do not fight the structure. You design it quietly, from the inside. When you return, your speech must be measured, your actions deliberate. Do not reveal what isolation taught you. Let them believe you are calm by nature, not by training. Influence grows faster when it feels unintentional. The less you try to persuade, the more others move toward you. Psychologically, humans are drawn to centered energy, the calm authority that radiates from one who does not seek validation. They project competence onto stillness. They mistake restraint for wisdom. You, who have learned control in silence, will appear to them as something rare, stability in a world addicted to reaction. But influence is not maintained by presence alone. It must be fed by unpredictability. Predictable power is vulnerable. Once others can anticipate your rhythm, they begin to plot around it. So you must alternate warmth with distance, clarity with ambiguity. Keep them guessing which version of you they will encounter. Mystery is not decoration, it is dominance. Ask yourself, how do you want people to feel in your presence? Comfort? Or uncertainty? The architect chooses deliberately. Because emotion is architecture, and every empire of the mind is built first through the manipulation of feeling. When you master that, you no longer compete for influence. You become the environment of influence itself. People will unconsciously adjust to your tone, your timing, your silence. They will think your ideas were theirs, and you, quietly, invisibly, will govern the direction of their thoughts. That is true Machiavellian design, to hold control without appearing to seek it. The hand that builds the structure should never be seen moving. But remember this, the return carries risk. If you return too soon, the noise will reclaim you. If you stay hidden too long, the world will forget you. Return only when your foundation is unshakable, when solitude has hardened you into something immovable. Then, your influence will not be forced. It will be gravitational. Power is not seized through noise or rebellion. It is established through presence, one so composed that others align to it without understanding why. You withdrew to learn control. Now you return to teach it. You no longer chase the world adjusts to your design. And yet, a question remains. Once you have shaped the world to your image, will you be strong enough to remain unchanged by it? Power is not loud. It whispers. The most dangerous control is the kind no one sees. When people move as you wish, yet believe it was their choice. That is the true art of influence, to weave invisible threads into the minds of others, and let them pull themselves toward your design. You do not dominate by force. You dominate by direction. You plant ideas like seeds, and when they grow, they no longer remember your hand. Ask yourself, how many of your own desires were born from someone else's design? And more importantly, how many minds are already living within yours? If you understand this, you see the game for what it is. Not cruelty, but control through perception. And in perception, he who defines reality rules it. Now, tell me, what part of power do you seek to master next? Comment your thoughts below. Subscribe for more Machiavellian strategies. And share this video, quietly, with those who think they cannot be influenced.